podcast. I'm joined tonight by Dr. Heather Staples, who is the chair of the Master of Arts in Organizational Leadership, Human Resources concentration, and recent CLU alum, Paquita Gantt, who is a graduate of that program. And tonight, I'm Dr. Ward, and we'll be talking about the idea of workplace authenticity. And so the way we'll do that is we'll be talking about Paquita Gantt's work and her capstone project. We'll be getting additional insights from Dr. Staples, our human resources expert, and then I'll be able to help facilitate the conversation. So are you all ready to go?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Paquita, tell us, what was the goal for your change project?
It's a really great conversation. A great question. So for me as an HR professional, I really wanted to study the impact of workplace identity and authenticity specific to African American women. And that was just because of my own experiences, but also mainly because of my guiding principles and my interest in diversity and inclusion. What I think a lot of people don't recognize is there's just been a huge shift, and the most important investment that a company has is its people. And when you have diverse individuals who have the ability to be authentic, you're getting a multidimensional and multifaceted organization. So that's really what sparked my interest in the topic and sparking some change.
Excellent. Yeah, it almost sounds like you're making a business case there. Dr. Staples, tell us more about workplace authenticity.
Yeah, so workplace authenticity not only allows us to be ourselves, but it also empowers us to be our best employees, just like Paquita was talking about. So it's really important for organizations to recognize us for who we are. After all, you hired us for us. So authenticity is essential to a company culture and organizational culture, and also transparency, which is highly valued among employees today.
Yeah, actually, I was just reading today on LinkedIn, there was a Harvard Business Review article about the importance of a culture of trust.
Yes.
And it's highlighting all these points right here.
Absolutely. You can't have trust without transparency.
Yeah. So, Paquita, one of the things we talk about at Claremont Lincoln University with the Capstone Project is the hope that it's not just a research project, but a passion project that's born out of those personal values and the things that really animate you. So what inspired you to do this work?
As I mentioned before, I really have a passion for diversity and inclusion. And when I think about my guiding principles, it's, treat everyone the way that I want to be treated. And a lot of that, you think about being the humanity and bringing a human in a mindful approach with fostering compassion, within ourselves and others. And part of that is allowing people to be authentic, being able to be in a workspace, in a place where they're comfortable in work, professionally and personally. So that was one of the things I really had to think about a lot on the front end when trying to decide what my capstone was going to be. It was something that I had thought about consistently over the course of my life. I'm very fortunate to be in a space professionally where I feel that sense of authenticity, that sense of inclusion, but it's a long time coming. It's a way of kind of working towards that space and being able to understand really who you are and what you bring to the table. So that was just a passion within me, and it continues to be so. And it was something that I feel like truly was really awakened as I started working on this project, as well as throughout my coursework at CLU, where you're thinking about mindfulness and dialogue and collaboration. Those things have become very important and inherent in me at the moment because of that.
Well, and Paquita has a wonderful story that she's emphasized in her capstone project about how she felt like she could not be authentic in the workplace. And I think so many people can relate to that, just about everybody, but especially those of us who are in protected classes. So I appreciate that Paquita shared her story because it's relatable to all of us.
Yes. And it really goes back to, earlier in my career, as far as kind of having those feelings and trying to kind of figure out, is it, what could have been different? What opportunities could have been afforded to me, and what can I do to help individuals who are trying to come and move into that space? And that's where I think, a lot of organizations are moving towards that. And as I said, I'm part of an organization that definitely has embraced that and really values it. And, not everybody has that experience. And, for me, because I've had that experience and because I recognize where I've come from, it enables me to really reach out to other individuals that are protected classes, but also to kind of bring forth that mentoring, which is, part of what happened within the capstone. That became part of the conversation. I talked to a number of people saying, throughout your career, did you ever feel like this? And there was an overwhelming sense of, yes, I have felt this in one way or another. And these were individuals who, different socioeconomic backgrounds. Their how they grew up, especially was different as far as what they were exposed to. Some were, graduate degree level professionals, some, it was just some were, high school, associate's degree. It was just such a gambit to be able to recognize that people are having this as experience. And for me to be able to look in and hone in it on with folks that I've, known for 10, 20 years to talk about that, it became a consistent conversation. But it's one that's well worth taking a look at. And I'm glad that a lot of organizations are really paying attention.
And if I may, I want to highlight something too that you've got me thinking about, and that is authenticity has a risk involved because of the vulnerability that goes with it. Yeah. And actually just connecting the pieces before we went live, we had talked about Brene Brown's work a little bit, and that, wow, that really resonates here.
It does. And I know as a Dr. Staples, you were referring to, that transparency and that trust. And I think that there are a lot of people who don't necessarily get that or feel that. And I think one of the goals and one of the things I was able to see within my capstone is that when people feel that, they're able to be more of their authentic selves. And that the ability to be authentic your authentic self is just as important of a benefit as health benefits, 401k, your vacation, because that is part of being able to bring who you are, bring your thoughts and your diverse views to the table to be able to bring out the success of the organization. Studies have shown that one of the biggest tenets for successful organizations is diversity. And the only way that you can accomplish that is to be able to allow people to bring their authentic selves, be able to trust that the information that they're bringing to the table, the ideas are going to be valued. Even if they're not used, they're valued, which allows them to be their best selves and to bring their best into the workplace.
I love this because we're really bringing forward the human and human resources here, right? This is great.
Very true.
So the capstone is an action project. Could you spend just a few moments telling us about the actions that you took as part of your project? And I ask this partly because I know there are other students watching this and they're trying to think about the actions they need to take. So I think they would benefit from hearing a little bit about your process.
Oh, absolutely. So earlier on in the program, during the collaboration portion, I had some really great conversations with individuals identified as key stakeholders. And again, they were individuals with different, a range of different backgrounds, professionally, from an educational standpoint, socioeconomic. And we started to kind of become to a sense of agreement that there is this sense of inability to be authentic in the workplace, and what can be done to change that, or what can be done to kind of help foster those type of environments. And so through those conversations, we came to that agreement, and I ended up creating a survey with a mix of questions to kind of get a feel for how participants felt in the workplace. Did they feel they could be authentic? Did they feel like their ideas were valued? Did they feel like they had a seat at the table? Those type of questions. So it was maybe roughly less than 10 questions. I reached out via leveraging social media and asked individuals if they wanted to participate. So I ended up receiving about 60 individuals who said they wanted to participate. It cascaded outside of social media to, hey, I have a friend who said they'll take the survey. And life happens. We ended up having, I think, about 20, a little less than 25 participants that did submit. And it was all anonymous, so they were aware of that as well. And I was really able to look at the data, break it down. And from that data, it came to about, I think, 95% agreed that they don't necessarily feel like they can be authentic in the workplace. And take it a step further, the additional conversations that I had before, it really, it added to that and saying that, yes, mentoring programs or an environment, or for lack of better words, a safe space where I'm able to have those truthful conversations and be transparent is what's needed to kind of help foster that environment and feeling that they're able to have a better sense of authenticity, and other people who are who get it. That's kind of where we ended up going in that direction as well.
Yeah. So as far as I hear the process, and the survey was critical to it. As far as results that came from the surveys and in follow up, what did that look like?
That was probably the best part for me. Was I had a lot of unsolicited commentary. So, I had this big plan of I was going to meet everyone, but I started having individuals who would come to me directly and say, hey, because of the survey, I really thought about how I could, engage others who may be feeling the same way. I actually had an individual who said, because of you, I reached out to someone who was newer to the company and kind of took them under my wing and served from a mentor capacity to kind of help them navigate. And that's one of the biggest things, is that a lot of times people don't feel like they're able to get that because either they don't have a seat at the table, or someone who is not in the same demographic as them, an African-American woman may not necessarily have a seat at that table. But when they do, to be able to kind of reach back and have that opportunity is invaluable. And so I had a number of people who said that. And I've also, had conversations with individuals who are actually working on plans within their organizations to bring, affinity groups, to be able to have those communities within their organizations, to be able to look at training and development, but also to be able to make sure that they're doing everything they can to ensure that they have a diverse environment and a way of thinking that allows a sense of authenticity, and incorporate that truly into their culture within the workspace.
Dr. Staples, if you would, please go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But as you're reflecting too, I'd also love to hear your perspective about the need for projects like this, especially since you were supervising it.
Sure. So I think what's so rewarding about Paquitas, or one of the rewarding things about Paquitas, is she identified early on the lack of mentorship of protected classes and being authentic in the workplace. So I think the results that she got at the end with those open conversations were just so rewarding and validated what she already knew. And so I think that is really one of many that we can take out of her project, is simply that we don't know unless we ask. We are not the only ones who feel this way. And so that's that vulnerability piece, right? So there's a lot of research on vulnerability right now with Brene Brown, probably the biggest one at the moment. But there's so much on not only vulnerability, authenticity, but the whole, if we don't ask, we don't know. And if we don't bring awareness, how are we going to make change? So I hope that addressed your question, Dr. Ward.
It was wonderful. And I want to make sure I'm hearing some of this correctly too. It almost sounds like this project planted a conversation seed, almost like it was giving permission for things to be talked about, maybe that people weren't comfortable talking about before. Is that, am I hearing you accurately in that sense?
I would definitely say that that's accurate. Definitely based off of the conversations that I had, it planted that seed, one, to have those conversations and think about, as Dr. Staples said, it's not just me, or this is the conversation that needs to be had. I had some individuals who hold leadership roles within their organizations, and it's kind of like, this may be something that I need to take back and really look at. Is there more that we can do? Because, of course, you want to be able to have that experience within the organization, but to be able to be heard and take that back and it's taken seriously and there's that value, it does a lot for the person, the employee or the associate that's in the workplace, but also for the organization. So I would definitely say that the seed was planted, and that's that small piece of change, in my little world that is expanded elsewhere. And that's really, what we learn and what we talked about throughout the course of the program at CLU. So, it really resonates with me as well.
Were you going to say something, Dr. Staples?
No.
Oh, okay, you're just nodding. Oh, good. I just want to make sure I didn't interrupt. Yeah. One of the other things that I'm hearing a lot is it's not just me. And so this is also a community building project then.
No, that's a really good point. And I think we talked about that throughout the course of, my last term within, the actual capstone class, as far as, the community building. Because I think I know for me initially, I had these ideas of like, I wanted to start a mentor program within my community and also be able to pull others from different organizations and nonprofits that I was a part of in order to kind of say, hey, how can we make this and bring this into fruition? And it's still, part of my ultimate plan to be able to do that as well, because there's definitely a need for it. And it's something that I know I'm passionate about and others within my area are passionate about as well.
Very nice. So what's next for you then? You've wrapped up your degree at CLU, right? Evidently, you've moved on in your career. You're in a new location with your HR work. So what are you looking forward to next?
I think I'm definitely looking forward to, continue to progress as far as within my world professionally, but also take a lot of what I have learned, that is added on to my, guiding principles to be able to bring that with me into the workplace and be able to have a positive impact. As I said, one of the things that I do want to do is incorporate this into some of the programming we have in some of the nonprofits that I'm a part of. And that is a continued discussion. But I can tell you, even as recent as yesterday, another conversation was sparked just based off of, these questions. And I was taken aback that, how something so simple as things that I've thought about throughout the course of my life, throughout the course of my career, has such a larger impact moving further on.
And that's something too, Dr. Staples, just 1 second. But I wanted to highlight too, because you've mentioned your story a couple times in here, and I was just rereading your paper before we came on to the CLU Live event tonight. And I really appreciate how you shared your story so effectively in that. And so I will be sure to post a link to your paper underneath this video tonight. So for those on Facebook, they can go directly and see your work.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Staples definitely had to pull that out of me because, I would talk about it and she's like, well, what is it? What is the story? And, and not to go into it, but, it goes back to just applying for college, the pushback and the questions and just kind of feeling like I had to, kind of push forward through myself in order to make certain things happen. I had the supportive family, I was a first generation college graduate, right? So I had the support, but then there was certain things that, we didn't necessarily have an awareness for. So just being able to see that girl from back then and, the space that I'm in now and the opportunities that I've had, even more so makes me want to share and incorporate and bring others along and help foster the authenticity and that feeling of being able to grow and navigate in the workspace.
And what's so beautiful about Paquita's story is not only was she having pressures from family and from community, but she also had a lot of her own pressures and a lot of her own, I can't do this because of XYZ. And well, who told you that? Who taught you that? So we have these added pressures. We might have them from our loved ones, from our mentors, or from other people, but we also put them on ourselves as well. So we need to recognize everything.
1,000%. Yeah, I definitely learned that about myself, the pressures and the desire to, want to exceed and do the best. But it's also, it just goes back to the biggest thing for me is how do I want to be treated, how others want to be treated, and to be able to continue to grow within that, as my story continues.
And I also wanted to just touch on what's next for Paquita. I know Paquita is going to give back to the community with her wonderful mentorship, but I think her story is also a really good example of we can make a difference just by mentoring one person.
Yes.
So it can be an individual contributor perspective, or it can be a community perspective as well. And I know Paquita is going to do both, but we mentioned that.
No, and I think that's a great point, especially when you go back to, others who are in the space of working on their capstone, being able to recognize that, because I started with this grand scale of, I'm going to do it. And it's like, you have 10 weeks, you have this time frame to do this micro project. And once I was able to really grasp that and understand how, change is, it's fluid, it's incremental, and this the smallest thing can make that difference. It made it easier for this passion project to really come into fruition. So that's a great point, Dr. Staples.
Yeah, I'm reflecting on, chapter 3 is about the plan. Chapter 4 is about what actually happened. And it's okay that there's a delta. That's part of the story. Is very rarely do our change projects go exactly according to plan.
Very true. Very true.
So what advice, Paquita, do you have for other change makers? Again, we've mentioned several times that our hope is other CLU students will have an opportunity to watch this and reflect on this. What's your advice for them?
I think really embrace the project. What the tool, and utilize the tools that we're given. I think there's this overwhelming feeling of, oh my gosh, this huge project, and it's, as I said before, it's just got to just have this be this giant grand gesture. It doesn't. Embrace the project and really focus on what you're passionate about, because one of your first sessions when you talked about that, like the light bulb went off. It's like, ding, like I am passionate as an HR professional about authenticity, diversity, and inclusion. And how does that affect me personally? How does it affect the people around me personally? How have I been able to evolve from those spaces? So I definitely suggest that those who are in the middle of the project, embrace it, utilize the tools that you have, recognize, as Dr. Staples says, it can be on an individual level. It can be on a group level. I think sometimes you have a tendency to overthink, especially when you're in an academic atmosphere. You're just like, is this real? Is this accurate? Am I doing enough? And often, you're doing your best and really bearing down and in working with that passion, you're going to be able to do it and make that achievement. And I know I had the opportunity to have a discussion with quite a few people right after I finished my capstone when we were all together last. And it was the same conversation that we had. I'm like, you can totally do it. Just follow the process, and the passion will actually see its way through and enable you to do it. And there's no, I guess, that the right or wrong, you're thinking, oh, it's going to go this way. Well, there might be something might happen, and that's part of change, and it's okay.
And I would just like to add to that, Paquita, change is one step at a time. So sometimes we have these very large ideas of what we want to change, and that's wonderful, and we'll get there. But sometimes that can't be accomplished in the 10 weeks. So what change can we do now? And then later continue that change for the next step and the next step, and then change the world. And that's
absolutely. Yeah. You had to tell me that a few times, and I got it and I captured it and I was able to run with it. So I think that's great feedback and information for, others who are in the process as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like to think that the capstone is simply the next measurable step toward that larger change.
Absolutely.
So is there anything else you'd like to tell us tonight?
No, I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing is I cannot stress enough how much the process impacted me positively. It gave me new insight to myself as far as my abilities. I was able to utilize everything that, a lot of the foundational aspects of the CLU program within the project, but also take it with me, within organizations that I'm a part of in the workplace. And I've been able to see and feel more so, even more so empowered in doing that. And so I definitely appreciate the opportunity to talk about it some more today. And I just definitely, welcome anyone who, has any other thoughts or questions about, being a change maker. It's definitely an opportunity to do that at CLU, and have the opportunity to work with both of you as well. I can't even say how much that has benefited me. So.
And I want to thank Paquita for bringing awareness to such an important topic. It's so relevant today, not only in human resources, but in organizations. So thank you for doing such a great job in sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Well, Dr. Staples and Paquita, thank you again for joining us tonight. I thank you for representing our program so well. And I trust that those who have watched the live event have benefited, and look forward to the benefit it will provide for CLU students or others who just want to know more about CLU, or even what it means to be a change maker. That's the great thing about recording these. So for those who are watching now, we want to say good evening. And for those who are watching in the future, thank you for joining us. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.